Hello everyone, my name is Atul Kumar and here is my project submission for PRT program organized by Smart Intern and Smart Bridge. My CRM application name is Expense Track. It is basically a CRM application to track, analyze and report the expenses we use. Talking about the data modeling, I use some standard and some custom objects like I use accounts and contact, and for custom object I use categories, expenses and expense items. Talking about the relationship between them, expense and expense item have a master detail relationship. Expense and category have a lookup relationship. I can show you through the schema builder what are the different relationship between the different objects. Like I said, expense and expense item has a empty relationship. Expense and category have a lookup relationship and so on. Let's dive into the different object I created and what is the purpose of that object. Like for category, this is the different categories for expenses like what is the different category housing, whether the expense related to housing, health, my personal expense, some entertainment, utilities, foods and groceries, transportation and etc. Talking about the expense object, it basically stored the expense related information like I open the new record. Here's the title for expense, what is the expense date, user stated, some comments, type of expense like the incoming expense I called it as incoming and outgoing expense as a outgoing expense. Okay, here's some approval status, categories, what are the category we have to choose, and who is the approver to approve all the expenses record. We can talk it at later. Like if I created a new record and through this I can demonstrate I have implemented few triggers on different fields. Like if I fill the test data, test expense date, some user like I have to set it to this status I am continue, comment new, and the type of expense. And if I am not selecting the category, here I am not selecting the category, it is auto populated by a value called miscellaneous. I have write a trigger for it, like I can show you. Here's the category is auto populated as a miscellaneous. So here's the trigger I write. If the expense record is saved without having a value in the category field, it auto populates the value with a miscellaneous record, and here's the record id of the miscellaneous record. And this is the second trigger I wrote on expense object. This trigger is restrict us to delete the approved expenses record. Like I talk about the expense record item, here the approved expense record, and if I try to delete it, it throws an error that expense record cannot be deleted, and this is due to the this trigger. If the status is equal to approved, it throws an error that approved expenses cannot be deleted. Moving to the next custom object I created is the expense item. It basically stored all the items related to the expenses. Like we have some different items related to each expense. Here's some field related to expense item like what is the expense, what is the amount of the expense, related company, and who is the customer of this expense item. And here is the date field, and for this date field I have applied a validation rule that this date field cannot have a value in the future or a value before 30 days. Like if I try to set a future value to the date and try to save it, there is an error that date cannot have a value in the future or older than a 1 month. This is the validation rule, one of the validation rule I have applied in this expense item, and there are some other validation rules as well to the different object like expense and expense manager as well. Talking about the flow I used in this project is a record trigger flow, which is basically triggered when a record is updated and the selected object is expense. Whenever an expense record is updated, an action is submitted that the expense record is submitted for approval to the manager, and Here's the approval process related to that approval process, and here's the configuration of it, where the manager have the right to either approve the record or reject a record. And for this, we have chosen some three templates, like one for the approved template, one for the rejected template email, and one for the assigned approval. Here's the expense approved template, and this one is the rejected template, and this one is for the assigned for approval template. Let's go back to the reports and dashboards. So this is the reports, expense reports. There are total of 5 reports, like expense created in the last 30 days, income created in current month, total expenses created by month, total income created by month, and the last one was expense pending approval. These are some reports created on the data that we have in the expense tracker. And in last, we have dashboards. In dashboard, we have created all the reports and we have accumulated all of them, like expense pending approval, the income created monthly, total expenses, income created in month, and expenses in the form of pie chart, donut, so we can easily analyze them. So this is all about the expense track application I have made for the PRT program. Hope you like it. Thank you for listening.